Don't cause a scene tonight, she warned. Then she pulled her ex aside for a quick chat and told me to find my own table. So I found one at home. When she got back 3 hours later, the apartment was empty. What's up, Reddit? You know that feeling when you realize you're not actually the main character in your own relationship? Yeah, I fought that feeling for 2 solid years with my ex. She had this special talent for making me feel like wanting basic respect was actually just me being insecure. If I asked who she was texting at midnight, I was controlling. If I questioned why she bailed on our plans to help some random friend, I was needy and clingy. I'm Ryan, 29, and I work in financial consulting for a mid-sized firm in Denver. Not the most exciting career on paper, but the money's solid, and I've built a decent reputation in my field. Been grinding at this company for 5 years straight. Worked my way up from junior analyst to senior consultant through late nights and weekend projects that most people wouldn't touch. My typical week involves analyzing investment portfolios for high net worth clients, preparing detailed financial reports, and sitting in way too many meetings where people argue about PowerPoint fonts. It's the kind of job where attention to detail actually matters. One decimal point in the wrong place and someone's retirement fund takes a hit. The pressure's constant, but I handle it well. I own my car outright, a 2019 Honda Accord that I bought used and paid off in 2 years. Got a nice downtown apartment in a building with a gym and reserved parking. Maintained a solid credit score, had a growing 401k, and generally operated like a functional adult. Apparently, all of that translated to boring in relationship terms. I grew up in a pretty standard middle-class household in the suburbs. Dad worked in insurance, mom was a nurse. They taught me the usual stuff about responsibility, showing up on time, keeping your word. Nothing fancy, just basic principles about being a reliable person. I played baseball in high school, went to state college on a partial academic scholarship, graduated with a finance degree, and manageable student loan debt that I'd paid off by 27. My life was stable, predictable. I knew my routines, had my systems, enjoyed my weekend hobbies. I'd go hiking in the Rockies when weather permitted, played in a recreational basketball league on Thursday nights, maintained my car myself because I actually enjoyed the mechanical work. I wasn't living some Instagram-worthy lifestyle, but I was content. Then I met Melissa, and apparently contentment wasn't enough. My ex, Melissa, and I met through mutual friends at a rooftop barbecue 3 summers ago. It was one of those perfect Denver summer evenings where the sun hangs in the sky forever, and the temperature's just right. My buddy Carter was hosting, celebrating his new job or something. The kind of casual party where people bring six-packs and bags of chips, and everyone stands around a grill talking about nothing important. Melissa showed up with her coworker around 7 p.m., wearing this sundress and these ridiculous oversized sunglasses that somehow worked on her. She had this energy that filled a room, laughing loud, touching people's arms when she talked, making everyone feel like they were the most interesting person she'd ever met. I noticed her immediately but figured she was way out of my league. We ended up in the same conversation circle talking about some documentary everyone had apparently watched except me. She gave me this playful hard time about being culturally behind, but it felt flirty instead of mean. When the host's grill started acting up halfway through cooking the burgers, I volunteered to take a look. Spent about 20 minutes diagnosing a clogged burner and a faulty igniter, while Melissa watched over my shoulder, asking questions about how grills worked. "You just know how to fix things?" she asked, genuinely impressed. "YouTube and basic mechanical logic," I said, getting the burner cleaned out. "Most problems have straightforward solutions if you're patient enough to figure them out." "That's actually really attractive," she said. "Most guys I know can't even change a tire." We spent the rest of the party talking. She worked as a receptionist at a dental office downtown, which paid okay but nothing spectacular. She'd gone to community college for a year studying communications, but dropped out when the loans started piling up, and she couldn't see the point anymore. She was 27, lived with 2 roommates in a house in the suburbs, drove a leased Nissan she was always behind on payments for. She talked about wanting more from life, wanting to travel, wanting to experience things instead of just existing. I found her spontaneity refreshing after a string of relationships with women who seemed more interested in my 401k than actual connection. Melissa seemed fun, unpredictable in ways I thought would balance out my structured approach to life. Turns out spontaneous is just another word for unreliable and exhausting. The first few months were good. She'd text me random ideas for dates, and we'd end up at food truck festivals or checking out art galleries or hiking trails I'd never heard of. She brought this energy into my organized life that felt exciting. I'd plan out our weekends with backup options in case of weather, and she'd laugh and call me her sexy scheduler. But there were signs early on that I ignored, because I was caught up in the new relationship energy. She worked as a receptionist at this dental office in Cherry Creek, which meant she spent her days answering phones, scheduling appointments, and dealing with people's insurance information. The job paid about $36,000 a year, which in Denver basically meant she was drowning financially. Between her car payment, student loans from the year of college she'd completed, rent for the house she shared with roommates, and her shopping habits, she was living paycheck to paycheck. I made around $95,000 as a senior consultant, which gave me comfortable breathing room. I'd put 15% into my 401k, maxed out my Roth IRA every year, maintained an emergency fund, and still had money left over for hobbies and savings. I was financially stable in ways Melissa had never experienced. From the beginning, there was this weird dynamic where she'd frame me as her stable boyfriend to her friends, but there was always this undercurrent of resentment about it. Like she appreciated the security, but resented needing it. She'd make comments about how I was too careful with money, or how I overthought everything when I'd want to budget for trips instead of just booking them on credit cards. Her ex, Trevor, came up a lot in those early conversations, always framed as cautionary tales about toxic relationships. He was so intense, she'd say. Everything was dramatic. He'd show up at my place at 2 a.m. wanting to talk about our relationship. I couldn't deal with that anymore. But I noticed how her voice changed when she talked about him. There was this edge of nostalgia mixed with the criticism, like she was describing a movie she'd hated but couldn't stop watching. Red flag I completely ignored because I was convinced I was different. I was the upgrade, the mature choice. Trevor was apparently this photographer or graphic designer or something creative that never quite made sense when she described it. The kind of guy who had projects instead of a career. He rode a motorcycle, had opinions about film photography versus digital, wore leather jackets unironically. The kind of dude who thought having strong opinions about obscure bands was a personality trait. She'd sworn he was bad for her, that she needed someone stable and reliable, someone who wouldn't make her cry at 2 a.m. or bail on plans because he got a last-minute gig shooting some band nobody had heard of, someone who showed up when he said he would and didn't play mind games. That someone was me, the stability guy, the emotional support human, the placeholder keeping her bed warm until something more exciting came along. About 6 months into dating, she started making comments about her living situation. The roommates were annoying. The house was too far from downtown. She was tired of dealing with other people's mess. I took the hint, and we started talking about moving in together. I was hesitant at first. 6 months felt fast. But she made a compelling case about how much time we spent at my place anyway, how much money we'd save on redundant expenses, how this was the natural next step for couples who were serious about each other. So I agreed, and we started apartment hunting. We found this nice 2-bedroom in a building downtown, with a gym, reserved parking, and a doorman. Rent was $2,400 a month, which was steep but manageable. I made it clear up front that I could handle maybe 60% of the rent if she covered 40%, which would be about $960 a month. She agreed, seemed excited about the whole thing. Then moving day came, and reality hit her finances hard. First month's rent, security deposit, moving costs, new furniture for the bigger space. Her share of the initial costs came to about $3,500, and she didn't have it. Her checking account had maybe $800 total. I ended up covering her portion with the understanding she'd pay me back. She never did. The money thing became this pattern. She'd agree to split something 60-40 or 70-30 depending on the expense, but when bills came due, she'd be short. Car trouble, unexpected vet bills for the cat she'd brought into the relationship, credit card minimums she'd forgotten about. I'd end up covering it because what else was I supposed to do? Let us get evicted? Let utilities get shut off? Within 3 months of living together, I was functionally paying about 75% of our combined expenses. Rent, utilities, internet, groceries, everything. Her receptionist salary was barely covering her car payment, student loans, and shopping habits. And she had expensive taste. She wanted to eat at trendy restaurants her friends posted about on Instagram, wanted new clothes for every season, needed the latest iPhone when her old one was working fine. I'd suggest maybe cutting back and she'd accuse me of trying to control her or make her feel poor. I work hard, she'd say. I deserve to enjoy my life. Meanwhile, I was working 50-hour weeks and putting most of my paycheck toward keeping our lifestyle afloat. The problem started manifesting in ways I couldn't ignore. She'd get these texts late at night. Her phone would light up on the nightstand at midnight, and she'd grab it immediately and angle the screen away from me. When I mentioned it casually, not even accusatory, just a, "Hey, who's texting this late?" she'd flip it into me being paranoid and controlling. Oh my God, Ryan, it's just Nicole. Why are you monitoring my phone? I'm not monitoring anything. I just noticed. This is exactly what I mean. You're so insecure. Do you not trust me? And just like that, my reasonable question became proof that I was the problem. The canceled plans became another pattern. I'd spend time planning something for us, booking reservations, getting tickets. Then the day would come, and she'd cancel last minute because her friend needed help or was going through some crisis. Nicole just broke up with her boyfriend. I need to go be with her. Your friend needs help moving and doesn't have anyone else. Every emergency was always more important than our plans. But when I needed her for my company events or family dinners, she was suddenly always available. Those were important for our future together. I started keeping track mentally. In the 6 months before our breakup, she'd canceled on me 7 times. Meanwhile, she'd never once missed one of my work functions. Her friend Nicole was poison to our relationship from day one. Nicole was one of those people who loved drama and secretly wanted everyone around her to be miserable. She'd send Melissa articles about settling and screenshots of successful guys from dating apps. She'd make comments about how Melissa could do better, or how I was fine but kind of basic. Our fights became this predictable cycle. I'd bring up something that bothered me, and she'd immediately weaponize it against me. I'd mention that I was stressed about covering most of our bills, and she'd accuse me of throwing money in her face. Any boundary I tried to set became evidence that I was suffocating her. About a year into living together, I started noticing she'd put more effort into her appearance when she wasn't seeing me. She'd wear sweatpants around the apartment, but would spend an hour getting ready to meet Nicole for lunch. She'd come home from work in full makeup on days when she'd normally look tired and ready for the couch. When I asked about it, trying to frame it positively like, "You look nice, what's the occasion?" she'd get defensive immediately. "So I'm not allowed to look good unless it's for you?" That's not what I said. I'm sorry I don't let myself go completely just because I have a boyfriend. Some of us still have self-respect. The gaslighting was textbook, but I didn't see it at the time. I just kept thinking if I could be more understanding, more flexible, less needy, things would improve. I was constantly adjusting myself to avoid triggering her defensive reactions, walking on eggshells in my own apartment that I was paying for. I'd mentioned to my buddy Carter that things felt off, and he'd look at me like I was describing symptoms of an obvious disease. "Dude, she's playing you," he'd say. "She's got you paying for everything while she does whatever she wants." It's not that simple, man. Relationships require compromise. Compromise means both people give something up. What's she compromising? Sounds like you're doing all the giving and she's doing all the taking. I'd defend her because that's what you do when you love someone. You give them the benefit of the doubt. You assume good intentions. You believe them when they say you're just being paranoid or insecure. Then came the promotion that changed everything. I'd been working on this massive client portfolio for 8 months. Major manufacturing company, restructuring their entire retirement program, managing about $40 million in assets. The kind of project that could make or break a career in my field. I'd been pulling 60-hour weeks, taking calls at weird hours to accommodate the client's schedule, basically living and breathing this account. My boss Rachel called me into her office on a Thursday afternoon. I thought maybe I'd screwed something up, missed some detail in the latest presentation. Instead, she offered me a promotion to senior consultant with a $25,000 raise and my own office with actual windows. "You've earned this, Ryan," she said. "Your work on the manufacturing account was exactly the kind of initiative we need at the senior level. Congratulations." I walked out of her office feeling like I was floating. This was validation for years of grinding, of being the reliable guy who showed up early and stayed late, who caught other people's mistakes before they became problems. This was proof that stability and consistency actually paid off. I called Melissa immediately. "Babe, I got promoted. Senior consultant, huge raise, everything we talked about." "Oh my God, that's amazing." She sounded genuinely excited. "We need to celebrate." I was thinking Luciano's? That place you've been wanting to try? "Yes. Perfect. This is so exciting, Ryan. I'm so proud of you." For a moment, everything felt right, like we were a real team celebrating a real win together. I spent the next day arranging everything. Luciano's had a 3-month wait list, but I called in a favor from a client who knew the owner. Got us a table for Friday at 8 p.m., prime dinner slot. I specifically requested one of their corner tables with the view of the city lights, because Melissa had mentioned once how romantic that would be. I went shopping after work, hit up Nordstrom and dropped $800 on a new charcoal suit that actually fit properly. Got it tailored same day for an extra $75, because I wanted everything perfect. New shirt, new tie, new leather shoes. The works. Melissa spent the afternoon getting ready, doing that whole process where she'd try on 6 different outfits before settling on the first one. She chose this red dress I'd bought her for her birthday 3 months earlier, the one that cost me $300 at some boutique she dragged me to. It fit her perfectly, the kind of outfit that turned heads when she walked into a room. "You look incredible," I told her as she was putting on her earrings. "You clean up pretty nice yourself," she said, smiling at me in the mirror. "Senior consultant. That's a big deal, Ryan. I know how hard you worked for this." Maybe I imagined it, but I thought I heard something else in her voice. Not quite resentment, but not quite pride either. Something in between that I couldn't name. We drove downtown in my Accord, found parking in the garage next to the restaurant. The walk to Luciano's was perfect. One of those crisp Denver evenings where the air feels clean and the city lights are just starting to come on. She linked her arm through mine, and for the first 10 minutes, I thought we'd turned a corner. Thought maybe things were going to get better now that financial stress would be reduced. We walked up to the hostess stand at exactly 8 p.m. I gave my name and the hostess was checking the reservation list when I felt Melissa's entire body tense up next to me. She'd gone rigid, like someone had hit pause on a video. I followed her gaze and saw him immediately. This guy walking out from the bar area. Tall, maybe 6 feet 2 inches, with that deliberately unkempt stubble that takes actual effort to maintain at the perfect length. Wearing a leather jacket over a plain gray shirt and dark jeans, the kind of calculated casual that cost more than my new suit, but looked effortless. He had this lazy confidence in the way he moved, like he knew people were watching him. This was Trevor. I knew it before anyone said a word. Her face when she saw him wasn't the expression of someone seeing an ex they'd moved on from. She lit up. It was this brightness I hadn't seen directed at me in months, maybe ever. Her whole energy shifted from relaxed girlfriend to something electric and nervous and alive. "Trevor," she breathed out, and I heard actual emotion in that name. Not the flat tone she used with me anymore. Real feeling. She was already stepping away from me, her arms sliding out from mine like I'd suddenly become invisible. Taking 2 steps toward him before catching herself. He saw her, and this lazy grin spread across his face. The kind of smile from a guy who knows exactly what power he still holds and enjoys using it. His eyes did this slow scan down her body and back up, completely shameless. "Look at you," he said. His voice was deeper than I expected. Casual and amused. Still killing it in red. He didn't even glance in my direction. I was invisible. Background scenery. A prop in whatever scene was playing out between them. I felt something in my chest tighten. That specific feeling when you realize you're watching something you should probably stop but can't. I stepped forward, trying to assert some presence in this situation, extending my hand like a professional adult meeting another professional adult. "I'm Ryan," I said, keeping my voice steady and friendly. "Melissa's boyfriend." Trevor barely flicked his eyes toward my outstretched hand. Looked at it for maybe half a second. Didn't take it. Just looked back at Melissa and laughed. This short, dismissive sound that wasn't quite cruel, but definitely wasn't respectful. "Boyfriend?" he said, like he was trying the word out for the first time. "Right. Good for you, Melissa." Then he looked at her. Not me. Safe choice. That moment, the disrespect was so loud it was deafening. My hand was still hanging in the air between us. The hostess was pretending not to watch this train wreck. The couple behind us in line had stopped talking. I felt heat rise in my neck, that physical reaction to being publicly dismissed. My jaw clenched. I opened my mouth to say something, to tell this guy exactly where he could shove his safe choice commentary, to grab Melissa's hand and walk the hell out of this situation. But she cut me off before I could get a word out. She turned to me and her eyes weren't soft or apologetic or embarrassed. They were hard, annoyed, like I was the one creating a problem. She put her hand flat on my chest, not affectionately, not even comfortingly, as a barrier, a physical signal to back down. "Ryan, stop." She hissed it under her breath, quiet enough that Trevor might not hear, but loud enough that I absolutely did. "Don't cause a scene tonight." I stared at her, actually stared, trying to process what was happening. "'Cause a scene? He just disrespected me to my face and you—" "He's joking," she cut me off, voice sharp now, not quiet anymore. "That's just his sense of humor. Don't be so sensitive." She actually snapped that last part, like I was a child having a tantrum over nothing. Then she glanced back at Trevor, like she was worried he might be offended by my existence, by my very reasonable expectation of basic respect. The hostess cleared her throat softly, uncomfortable with this drama playing out at her stand. Melissa lowered her voice again, trying to sound reasonable now. Measured. like she was explaining something obvious to someone slow to catch on. I haven't seen him in 3 years, Ryan. I need to clear the air. It's important for my closure. Closure? I repeated. My voice came out harder than I intended. We're here for my promotion dinner. You know the thing we plan to celebrate? It'll take 10 minutes, she said, waving her hand dismissively. She wasn't asking permission, wasn't requesting my understanding. She was telling me how this was going to go. Just 10 minutes. Then she did something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. She turned her back to me, fully turned her back, angling her entire body toward Trevor, presenting her shoulder to me like I was a stranger trying to interrupt her conversation. Over that shoulder, she tossed the grenade that killed our relationship. Just go find us a table or something. Her tone was casual, dismissive, like she was talking to a waiter. I'll be there in a few minutes. Don't be weird about this. And then, this is the part that broke something in me, she reached out and grabbed Trevor's arm. Not a casual touch. She wrapped her fingers around his bicep, familiar and comfortable, and I watched his arm flex slightly under her touch, watched a knowing smirk cross his face. Let's go outside, she said to him, to Trevor, to the ex she'd supposedly moved on from years ago. It's too loud in here. And they walked toward the patio doors together. Her hand stayed on his arm the entire way. I stood there in the middle of the restaurant. The hostess was staring at me. The couple behind us in line was staring at me. I was a grown man holding a reservation at an expensive restaurant, being told to go sit in the corner alone while my girlfriend went on what was basically a mini date with her ex. The hostess cleared her throat uncomfortably. Sir, your table is ready. Shall I seat you? I looked toward the patio door. Through the glass, I could see them. She was laughing, her hand touching his arm again. She looked alive. She looked exactly like someone who'd just run into the person they actually wanted to be with. And I realized with this clarity, that felt like ice water hitting my veins, that I wasn't her boyfriend. I was her placeholder. I was the safe harbor she parked in, while waiting for something more exciting to come along. I looked at the hostess. No, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I won't be needing the table. I turned around and walked out the front door. I didn't storm out or cause the scene Melissa had specifically instructed me not to cause. I walked to my car with the calm precision of someone executing a plan. I checked my phone. 7:15 p.m. If Melissa was really just clearing the air, and if the way she touched Trevor's arm was any indication, 10 minutes was a complete lie. They'd have a drink or two. They'd reminisce about old times. She'd lose track of time because my time had never really mattered to her anyway. I estimated I had at least 2 hours, probably 3, before she'd even think to check her phone. I drove home in complete silence. No music, no podcasts. Just the quiet hum of the engine and this new plan crystallizing in my head. When I got to our apartment, I didn't feel sad or angry. I felt efficient, purposeful. I walked straight to the bedroom and grabbed the box of heavy-duty trash bags from under the sink. Time to execute an erasure. I cleared my side of the closet in 4 minutes flat. Suits, dress shirts, casual clothes, everything. I didn't fold anything. Just swept it all off the hangers directly into the bags. The sound of empty hangers clattering together was the only noise in the room. Rip, open, fill, mechanical and satisfying. Bathroom next, my razor, my cologne, prescription medications, vitamins, everything that was mine. I left the toothpaste because we shared it, left the hand soap, only took what was exclusively mine. The living room was the most satisfying part. I unplugged my PlayStation 5, took my Switch. My laptop went into my backpack. Then I went to the router. The internet account was in my name. I paid that bill every month. I unplugged the modem and router and packed them too. Petty? Maybe. But if she wanted to communicate with Trevor, she could use her own data plan. I went to the safe we kept in the bedroom closet. Passport, birth certificate, social security card, my grandfather's watch collection, emergency cash envelope. All of it came with me. By 8:30 p.m., my car was loaded floor to ceiling. The back seat looked like a mountain of black trash bags. I walked back into the apartment for one final check. It didn't look like someone had moved out normally. It looked like a rupture, like reality had glitched and half the apartment's contents had just vanished. My side of the bathroom vanity was completely bare. The closet was this gaping wound of empty space, next to her colorful dresses. The entertainment center was a skeleton of wires where my consoles used to be. I took the spare key off my keyring and placed it on the kitchen counter. Looked around for paper and found a piece of junk mail. Credit card offer, perfect. Flipped it over and grabbed a Sharpie. I wanted to write a paragraph. Wanted to list every time she'd made me feel small. Every dismissal. Every moment she'd chosen someone else's feelings over mine. But then I remembered the restaurant. I remembered her specific words. Don't start anything. She wanted me quiet. She wanted me compliant. So I gave her exactly what she asked for. I wrote 4 words. I didn't start anything. Then I added one more sentence. I finished it. I left the note on the counter next to the key, turned off the lights, and walked out. Locked the door behind me and drove to my buddy Carter's place across town. Carter took one look at my car packed to the ceiling with trash bags and just nodded. She finally do something you couldn't ignore? Told me to find a table while she caught up with her ex, so I found a different table. About time, man. Get inside. I crashed on Carter's couch that night. Didn't sleep much. Just stared at the ceiling thinking about Melissa walking back into that empty apartment, wondering how long it would take her to even notice I'd left the restaurant. Around 10:30 p.m., my phone started ringing. I'd turned the sound off, but I could see the screen lighting up. Melissa. I let it ring, then again, and again. By 11 p.m., the calls were constant. Then came the texts. Where are you? Ryan, this isn't funny. I'm back at the table and you're not here? The hostess said you left? Answer your phone. I watched them come in, one after another. Didn't respond to a single one. Then around midnight, she must have gotten home. The texts changed tone immediately. What the hell did you do? Where is everything? Did you rob me? Ryan, answer me right now. Still didn't respond. I wasn't being cruel. I just had absolutely nothing left to say to her. The next morning, her friend Nicole called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Ryan, what is wrong with you? Nicole's voice was sharp and accusatory. Melissa's been crying all night. Do you know what you did to her? Yeah, Nicole, I do. I left. You abandoned her. Who just packs up and leaves without even talking about it? Someone who got told to sit alone at a restaurant while his girlfriend flirted with her ex on what was supposed to be my celebration dinner. She was just talking to an old friend. You're being dramatic and insecure. She grabbed his arm, Nicole. She told me not to cause a scene. She chose a private conversation with him over sitting at dinner with me, on the night I got promoted. So I made it easy for her. Now she can have all the private conversations she wants. This is psychotic behavior, Ryan. Normal people don't just move out in 3 hours. Normal people don't tell their partners to go find their own table either. Funny how that works. There was a pause. I could hear Nicole scrambling for a different angle. She loves you. She made a mistake. Can't you just talk to her? Tell her not to worry about rent. I paid through the end of the month. She's got 28 days to figure out how she's going to afford a 2-bedroom downtown apartment on a receptionist salary. Or maybe she can ask Trevor to move in. I hung up and blocked Nicole's number. The sweetest part of accidental justice came later, when I heard through a mutual friend what happened with Trevor. Turns out after I left the restaurant, Melissa tried to pivot straight to him. Started texting him that same night, probably looking for a shoulder to cry on. Maybe hoping this was fate clearing the path for them to get back together. Trevor left her on red. Completely ghosted her. Turns out Trevor wasn't in Denver looking to reconnect with an old flame. He was just passing through town for work, got bored, and figured he'd get an ego boost from an ex who clearly still had feelings for him. Once he realized she came with baggage, a fresh breakup, a missing boyfriend, emotional needs, he vanished. He blocked her on Instagram 3 days after the restaurant incident. She'd burned down her entire relationship for a guy who wouldn't even buy her a second drink. The financial reality hit Melissa hard and fast. I'd been paying 70% of our bills. Without my income covering rent, utilities, internet, groceries, and her occasional shopping habits, the math just didn't work anymore. She tried to stay in the apartment. I kept my distance, communicating only through email about lease details. Told the landlord I was vacating and wouldn't be renewing when our lease ended in 2 months. 3 weeks later, I got an automated email from the leasing office. The full rent payment hadn't been received. Melissa sent me one email during this period. No subject line, just, I can't afford this place alone. You promised to take care of me. How can you be this cruel? I didn't reply. I wasn't being cruel. I was just no longer subsidizing a lifestyle for someone who didn't respect me. She ended up having to break the lease early. Lost the security deposit, which I'd paid in full when we moved in. Last I heard from mutual friends, she had to move back in with her parents. The same parents she'd constantly complained were suffocating and controlling and impossible to live with. She was 30 years old, sleeping in her childhood bedroom with a twin bed, surrounded by boxes of clothes she had no closet space for. The placeholder was gone, and without him holding up the structure, everything collapsed. 4 months passed. My life had settled into this quiet rhythm that I actually enjoyed. Found a new place, a loft closer to my office, smaller than the apartment, but entirely mine. No compromises on furniture or decor, no walking on eggshells. Work was going incredibly well. The promotion came with new responsibilities I was crushing. Without the constant anxiety of wondering what Melissa was upset about or who she was texting, I could actually focus. My performance reviews were excellent. I was sleeping better, hitting the gym regularly, looked better than I had in years. I hadn't heard from Melissa since that one email about rent. Assumed she'd faded into her hometown life. Another cautionary tale people tell at happy hours. Then she ambushed me. It was a Tuesday morning around 8 a.m. I was at the coffee shop near my office, waiting for my pour-over, checking emails on my phone. Had a client meeting at 9 and was reviewing the presentation notes one more time. I was wearing this tailored charcoal coat I'd bought with money I wasn't spending on someone else's credit card debt anymore. Feeling good about life, focused, clear. Ryan, the voice was familiar but different, thinner, lacking the sharpness and confidence it used to carry. I turned around. Melissa was standing there holding a coffee cup with both hands, like she needed something to grip. She looked diminished. That's the only word that fit. Hair pulled back in a messy bun that looked more functional than styled. No makeup. Dark circles under her eyes. Wearing clothes that looked like she'd grabbed whatever was clean from a laundry basket. The difference from the woman who'd worn that red dress 4 months ago was jarring. She looked tired. Not stayed up late tired. Deeply, existentially tired. The kind of exhaustion that comes from living back in your childhood bedroom at age 30 and arguing with your mom about whose turn it is to do dishes. "Melissa," I said. My voice came out neutral, professional, exactly the tone I'd use greeting a former coworker I had no particular feelings about. "Can we talk?" Her eyes darted around the busy coffee shop like she was worried someone might overhear. "Just for 5 minutes, please. I know I don't deserve it, but please." I checked my watch deliberately. "I have a meeting at 9. I need to get to work. Ryan, please." Her voice cracked, and I could see her fighting to keep composed. "I just need to see you. I need to explain what happened. I need you to understand." I looked at her for a long moment, waited to feel something. Anger, maybe. Satisfaction at seeing her struggling. Some remnant of the love I'd convinced myself was real for 2 years. I felt nothing except mild inconvenience. Like running into someone who owed you $20 from 3 years ago and having to decide if it's worth bringing up. "You can walk with me to my building," I said finally. "You have 3 minutes." The relief that flashed across her face was almost pathetic. "Thank you. God, thank you." We walked out onto the sidewalk together. The morning air was crisp and cold. That perfect Denver autumn temperature where you need a coat, but not a heavy one. She struggled to keep up with my normal pace, her shorter legs working to match my stride. "I messed up," she blurted out, before we'd made it half a block. "I know I did. Trevor, he was nothing. Just a ghost from the past, and I got caught up in some stupid nostalgia. I wasn't thinking clearly. He stopped responding to me days after you left. Ghosted me completely. It was the stupidest thing I've ever done. I threw away everything. Threw away us. For absolutely nothing." "I know," I said, keeping my eyes forward, not breaking stride. "I miss you, Ryan." She reached out to touch my arm. That same gesture she'd used on Trevor. I sidestepped it smoothly, not breaking my pace. Her hand dropped back to her side. "I miss us," she continued, desperation creeping into her voice now. "I miss our apartment. I miss our life. Living with my parents is a complete nightmare. I'm sleeping in a twin bed with stuffed animals from high school still on the shelf. I'm 30 years old. I miss talking to you every day. I miss my best friend." I stopped walking then. We were about a block from my office building. I could see the glass doors from here. I turned to face her fully for the first time. "You don't miss me, Melissa," I said. My voice was calm, factual, like I was explaining a budget variance to a client. "You miss the apartment. You miss the financial safety net. You miss having someone to project your insecurities onto so you didn't have to deal with them yourself. You miss not having to live with your parents. You miss the placeholder who paid your bills and asked for nothing except basic respect." She flinched like I'd physically slapped her. "That's not fair. I loved you. I really did love you, Ryan. You told me to go sit alone at a restaurant while you flirted with another man," I said, still calm. "On the night we were supposed to celebrate my promotion. You grabbed his arm right in front of me and told me not to cause a scene when I objected to being disrespected. That's not love, Melissa. That's management. You were managing me like an employee, and I resigned from the position." She started crying. Not the manipulative crying she used to deploy strategically when she wanted something or needed to win an argument. This was real, messy, the kind of crying that comes from realizing your tactics don't work anymore and you've actually lost something you took for granted. "Can't we just start over?" she begged, tears running down her face now. "Please, Ryan, Just coffee sometime. Just one drink. Let me prove I can be better. I've learned so much. I've been in therapy. I understand what I did wrong. Let's just start fresh. Forget everything that happened and start over. I looked at her, really looked at her one last time. I saw the regret there, genuine and raw. But I also saw the entitlement still lurking underneath it. The assumption that if she just said the right words, showed enough emotion, demonstrated enough remorse, she could negotiate my dignity back to the table. That we could reset to a point before she'd chosen someone else over me. I smiled, but it was the kind of smile that doesn't touch your eyes. Professional. Distant. Start over, I repeated slowly, like I was considering it. Then I leaned in slightly, close enough that only she could hear me, and delivered the final echo of the night that changed everything. Melissa, you were the one who told me not to cause a scene that night. You wanted me to stay in my lane, keep my mouth shut, and not make waves. You wanted me quiet and compliant and grateful for whatever scraps of attention you threw my way when you weren't busy with someone more exciting. I stepped back and looked her directly in the eyes. So I'm doing exactly what you asked. I'm not starting anything. I let that hang in the air for a beat. I'm finished. I turned and walked toward the glass doors of my office building. Didn't look back. Didn't check to see if she was still standing there watching. Didn't slow my pace or hesitate. Just walked through the lobby like I did every other Tuesday morning, swiped my badge at the security turnstile, and stepped into the elevator. As the doors slid shut, blocking the street from view and cutting me off from whatever expression was on Melissa's face, I let out a long breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.